Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here today to talk about our Soledad copper, gold, silver discovery in Peru. When I started in this business 37 years ago, I was told that 1 in 50 geologists will make a discovery during their career. And at the time I thought doesn't sound very good to me, but I can tell you after doing it for this long, those odds actually sound pretty good. And the reason is because discoveries are getting more difficult. The maturity of exploration in many of the premier mining places in the world is much higher. So when you hear about a discovery like I'm going to talk about today, it's really important. And the real question for us is how big is this discovery going to be? Our plan for the next 2 years is to answer that question with really aggressive exploration. And I'll take you through where we're at in that journey to deliver what we think is going to be a very large new mine in Peru producing copper, gold, and silver. So if you're thinking about investing in mining, there's several key questions you need to answer. And the first is where? Where do you want your money to be invested in the ground? When people invest in our company, we spend that money in the ground. And our project is located in Peru. The thing you want to look for mining investments location-wise is it a mining country? Does it have a long track record of attracting foreign capital, a long track record of investing that money in building new mines and new operations? Does it have a good mining law and a good environmental regulatory framework? And you can find all of that in Peru. Peru is the second largest copper producer in the world. It's number 1 in Latin America. It has many great attributes. It has low cost of labor. It has low energy costs because it has its own energy sources. And a significant part of the energy in Peru is produced from renewable resources. Up to 35% of the energy in Peru is from renewable. You might have heard a lot about the politics in Peru. They're all over the map. That's nothing new. It's been like that for a long time. One of the best ways of looking at that issue is to just look at politics versus production. Not a conventional graph that you might see, but this is a graph that shows copper production in the bar graph. You can see there was a significant ramp up in 2016. That's when billions of dollars of investment went into Peru to bring on a new mine, the Las Bambas mining complex, as well as upscale and expand several existing mines. And that's all happened with a very controversial and politically motivated scene in Peru. There have been 7 presidents in the last 13 years. In fact, there's been 3 presidents in the last 2 years. But you can see from that graph that it hasn't affected production. Production continues on. It's because mining is a fundamental part of the economy in Peru, and even the politics are not going to change that. So the next question you might want to consider in investing in mining is what to invest in, what commodity. And there's lots of choices out there. I mean, everyone talks about gold and silver. Having exposure to precious metals in your portfolio is really important. But other metals are also important. And copper has really outstanding fundamental economic parameters going forward. It was really strong even before all the clean energy initiatives that are being advanced today. The graph on the upper right there shows the supply gap that was predicted even before the clean energy initiatives were starting. So it was already a metal that's going to be an undersupply. That's why we see a price of $4.70 a pound today. It hit $5 recently, the highest price copper's ever been. And if you look at the photograph in the lower right, you see there's going to be massive demand on copper. That's a cross section through a submarine cable for an offshore wind farm, and every meter of that cable requires 110 pounds of copper. So that's just enormous. And then if you think about electric vehicles, they require anywhere from 4 to 7 times the amount of copper that a traditional vehicle requires. So there's going to be huge demand, and it's because of that Goldman Sachs has predicted 680 copper by 2025. They're being very bullish on that. This is a really interesting graph here. It shows that of all the metals that are involved in energy, and we refer to these as energy minerals or energy metals, copper is involved in every single energy solution out there. It's the only metal on that list that is involved in every single one. So if you want to get exposure to the clean energy initiatives and electric vehicle proliferation, copper is one of the best ways to get exposure to that. So going back to Peru, Peru is, as I mentioned, is a mining country. It has world-class mines. All the major mining companies are in Peru. In fact, recently Newmont just announced an intention to expand their Yanacocha into a sulfide mining phase, a $2 billion investment, very, very significant advancement in their operations in Peru, and they wouldn't be doing that if they didn't believe in Peru as a mining country long term. Our project is located, you can see there, just south of the Piarina mine. That's a world-class gold mine that was mined by Barrick. We're west of the Antamina mine. That's the biggest operating mine in Peru. So the story about our discovery, the discovery started in 2017. We've drilled 60,000 meters to date. We put the first resource out in January of this year. It's a very important milestone for us to reach. We've defined the amount of copper, gold, silver in the ground, but it's only on a small part of the property. We've only tested 15% of the 122 targets we have on the property, so we know the discovery is going to grow considerably. The question is, how big is it going to get? We have a cornerstone strategic investor in Gold Fields. Gold Fields is the 7th largest gold company in the world, gold producing company in the world, and they've invested $11 million in the company. They currently own 19.99%. So obviously, for a large global mining company like Gold Fields to invest that kind of money, it tells you that there's considerable upside potential. So with just having to explore 15% of the targets on the property, you can see why we're calling this the tip of the iceberg. The drill core that you see in that photograph there, that's what our mineralization looks like. It's really stunning. It's very high grade. That's all chalcopyrite with high levels of copper and silver in that mineral. This is a view of the district we're in. Somebody said earlier that scale matters in mining. It certainly does. The bigger the mining district, generally the bigger the potential. This is a 150 square kilometer mining district. It has 4 active mines that are mined on neighboring properties off to the east. Those are all lead, zinc, silver mines, whereas our project in discovery is copper, gold, and silver. The copper really tells us we're getting closer to the heat engine. It's really where the intrusive center that drove and produced all of the mineralization within the district is located. And it's interesting that what we think is the most valuable part of the district was discovered much later in its history. Our deposits are hosted in tourmaline breccia pipes, and these can be really dramatic features. They're very obvious targets. There's a picture of one on the left with the drill rig on the top of it. These are quite stunning outcrops, but they're not all like this. We have blind breccia pipes, the ones that aren't exposed at surface. We have breccia pipes that are covered by glacial deposits, so they can be much more subtle than what you see there. If you look at a three-dimensional model of the few breccia pipes we've drilled to date, you can see what they look like here. They're the red vertical pipe-like bodies. They're actually, from a mining standpoint, much better than mining veins. But veins typically have problems with mining widths. The veins pinch and swell and become faulted out. These breccia pipes are pristine vertical ore bodies that come to surface or near surface, and they're vertically extensive. We've never seen the bottom of a breccia pipe yet, and we've drilled 900-meter holes. Our resource estimate that came out in January of this year is shown here. I think the important takeaway from this is the overall grade. The copper equivalent grade of the resource is 1.8% copper equivalent. That's 4 to 5 times higher than the normal copper project that's being developed globally. And that's a very significant attribute to this project. Very high grade means lower capital to build the mine. It means higher operating margins. There's a number of other benefits that come along with that. The gold equivalent grade would be 2.87, again much higher than the typical gold mine that you hear about in places like Nevada and elsewhere. The total metal in the ground, 191,000 ounces of gold, 11.7 million ounces of silver, and 130 million pounds of copper. If you do the copper or the gold equivalent calculation on that, it's about 650,000 ounces of gold. So again, not a bad start for the very first initial resource, just based on a small fraction of the property. The resource model is shown here for gold, copper, and silver. You can see the geologic model on the left. Those are the breccia pipes. There's actually two breccia pipes in this case. We found a blind one as we were exploring the one that crops out at surface. And the important thing from the takeaway message here is our resource grades, again, very high, up to 9 grams per ton resource blocks in gold, up to 16% copper resource blocks, and up to 670 grams silver. Very, very high grade material. We've also set some records in this project. We had a 12-meter massive sulfide intercept last year hosted within one of these breccia pipes that ran 27% copper and 960 grams, or just below a kilogram of silver over that interval. So really, really spectacular grades within these breccia pipes that are vertically extensive. Exploration is, at the end of the day, is really a science. It's an applied science. We use the latest technology to image and locate these breccia pipes. We can see the ones that are blind as well. The ones that don't crop out at surface are very obvious targets for our drill testing. And that's going to be the focus of our program this year and also next year. This is the current target inventory. I mentioned 122 targets. Most of those are breccia pipe targets, but we also have some very large bulk mineable disseminated gold type of mineralization on the property that will be tested in our upcoming field programs this year and next year. And the best way of looking at that is if you look at the map on the left, that's the gold in soil. You can see the areas of yellow and orange and red and magenta. Those are the anomalous areas where there's mineralization at or below surface in those locations. On the south side, though, is a very, very large feature. We call it the mega gold anomaly. It's one of the biggest gold anomalies in soil that I've ever seen in my career. And as I mentioned, I've been doing this for up to going on 37 years. The view of this anomaly from the north to the south, this is a three-dimensional view, perspective view, is just showing the scale of this feature. It's about 1.8 kilometers across by a kilometer in the other direction. It's huge in scale. It's actually got the footprint of the Piarina mine indicated or demarcated by this gold anomaly. We've never drilled on this south side. So this is in addition to the breccia pipe potential, which is already part of the initial resource. This could be a company maker right here. We expect to be able to drill on this part of the project in 2023. We're working on the permit to get access to that now. This is what the 2-year plan looks like. It's really focused on exploration and new discoveries. You see the yellow bars there. That's 10,000 meters of exploration drilling this year, 10,000 meters next year. We expect multiple new discoveries to come out of that would be added to the ultimate resource in a future updated resource estimate. We're very strong on ESG. It's something that started with our programs going all the way back to 2017. These programs have matured very nicely. The social programs, there's multiple different programs and initiatives that we run, mostly directed towards sustainability. We operate our project immediately adjacent to operating mines, so our environmental program is also very, very strong. It's super important for us to understand the environmental baseline of our project and how our neighbors affect that baseline. So that's been a big part of our program. It's also worth noting that high-grade deposits are much better for the environment because you move less rock to get the same amount of metal out of the ground as you would a low-grade deposit. In fact, that graph that's shown there shows that of these 49 development projects globally in copper, they have an average grade of about 0.4% copper. Our grade in copper equivalent is 1.8, so we're 4 or 5 times higher grade than these giant low-grade deposits. And you can see that blue line on the graph. There's an exponential increase in the amount of rock needed to be moved in order to get the same amount of copper out of a deposit that has a much higher grade. So high grade is good for the environment. Experience on the team is also important in any mining investment. Doug Silver is our chairman. Doug is in the U.S. Mining Hall of Fame. John Black is also on our board. John, Doug, and I are the 3 geologists involved in the company. We all have varied and different backgrounds, but many, many years working for major mining companies and good, broad global experience. This is our share structure. As I mentioned, Gold Fields is in there at 19.99%. Our market cap is right at about 21 million Canadian right now. So a company that's got a new resource with enormous upside potential. We have a strategic investor that's come in that provides tremendous validation of the opportunity, and yet we're sitting at a share price that's been pushed down by a number of factors, including the politics of Peru. There's never been a better time to invest in this company. We've got we understand the geology, we have the targets defined, and we have a long way to go to bring the resource potential up to what it can be, and we understand how to do that. So just to summarize, tip of the iceberg, we've only tested 15% of the targets. The size of the discovery is going to grow, and we anticipate it's going to continue to be high grade like we've been discovering so far. Gold Fields is there. That tells you right there there's tier 1 potential. This could be a world-class discovery. We're in a great location, even within Peru, which is a mining country. We're in one of the best provinces in Peru. Tremendous infrastructure, grid power, plentiful water, public road networks, all brought in during the development of world-class mines that are within the same province. And you're also getting exposure to not only copper, but also precious metals. The value split between gold and silver versus copper is about 50-50. Half the value is sitting in precious metals, and the other half is sitting in copper. And you're also investing and getting exposure to a very experienced, seasoned management team. Thank you very much.
Doug, do you want to talk a little bit about your drilling programs and when you plan to restart drilling? Your slides said you had a really good one, the Canadian and the bank, so I'm assuming you might need to do a financing.
Yeah.
You want to roll into that restructured option agreement that gives you some additional flexibility as well?
Yeah, the plan for this year is 10,000 meters of exploration drilling. We will be raising capital to do that. We have restructured an underlying agreement. It's a purchase option agreement that was just announced this week, and that gives us more flexibility. It basically just spreads out the balloon payments. And the important thing there is when we raise money, there's more, most of that money is going directly in the ground. It's not going to pay property payments. As I mentioned, we have Gold Fields. Gold Fields has already participated in 2 financings. They came in and did a $8 million investment in 2019 as a sole placement by Gold Fields, and then they participated in our financing last year. They're very happy with the progress we've made, and they remain very supportive. So I think we welcome their contribution both technically as well as financially in the project, and the plan for the following year would be the same, about another 10,000 meters of drilling. The exciting thing there is we'll be getting access to the south side. We'll be testing that mega gold anomaly as well as numerous other high-grade breccia pipes that are cropping out at surface on the south side. I'm sorry, is labor? No, the nice thing about Peru is it's a mining country, and so there's skilled labor throughout the Andean region. Even in our project, there's operating mines right to the east of us, and the skilled labor comes from the local towns. Huaraz is a town of about 40,000 people, and it's a mine services town for the Piarina and Antamina mines. So there's engineering firms there, and there's local skilled labor that can be sourced, and it's much lower cost. That's one of the reasons that people like operating in Peru, is because your operating costs are generally much lower. On our project, local labor would be about anywhere from 15 to 20 people. We're mainly running exploration programs that don't require a lot of labor. Our permanent staff is about 12, so all up we're under 25 people for the program. Yeah. Well, the question is, what's the real driver for copper long-term demand? And just before any of the clean energy happened, just any kind of economic growth. When economies are growing, they're consuming copper. When you're building, mainly construction-related type of things, all electronic things require copper. But we know that's going into a supply deficit starting now up and through 2025. But it's going to get exacerbated by the clean energy initiatives, which are going to start coming on stronger. Electric vehicle proliferation is going to create tremendous demand for copper. Solar, geothermal, wind power all require copper to connect to the grid and for energy transmission. So that it's really transitioning from copper being an industrial metal to it being an energy metal, and that demand's going to go for quite there just simply isn't the supply to meet that demand. Yeah.
A lot of people might say, well, you don't really need any more ground to cover because you've got a pretty full plate that's there on a huge opportunity. But you mentioned the south side. Could you maybe compare and contrast what will the south side, how will that differ, and what's the complete upside there?
Yeah, the south side's similar to the north side. Mostly, the north side is mostly represented by these breccia pipes. There's numerous breccia pipes on the north side, but we've also found those breccia pipes on the south side. We've sampled them. They're also very strongly mineralized in gold and copper and silver that you can see right at the surface. So those are obvious targets that allow us to add additional high-grade breccia pipe type mineralization to the resource. What's really exciting about the south side is this mega gold anomaly. The scale of it is huge. It's a different target type. It's much more of a disseminated gold type of target. We expected that if mineralization exists there, it's going to be shallow because it's a soil geochemical anomaly. The scale of it is huge. So that represents a different type of target. It's probably related. We think that the mineralization there is related to the tourmaline breccia pipes. A big part of that anomaly overlies an intrusion, and we think that's one of the heat engines that created the breccia pipe mineralization. We've got conflicting theories about how the timing of all the different events, but they're no doubt related in time. But it's quite exciting to think that we might have two different styles of mineralization that would give us additional options on how you might develop this new discovery. Thank you.